So, a former member of the Trump administration has now gone onto the internet to threaten Denmark's sovereignty, threatening to conquer Greenland from Denmark. Their justification for why the US should concern itself with Greenland and why it's so important? Well, it's because Greenland apparently isn't defendable or developable. So what do you do with land like that? Well, you take it from the indigenous people. You take it from the people who live there. Look, I don't know if the Danes live there or what group of people live there. I'm pretty sure it's probably European people who live there. But isn't it crazy how the MAGA movement is so imperialistic? They're telling the people who own the land, who have lived there for quite some time, it's ours now because you haven't developed it enough. So it needs to be in the hands of your superiors. Don't believe me? Watch.
The idea that little Denmark, which can't even defend its own territory, the small country of Denmark, can defend Greenland is preposterous. So they can't afford to defend it and they can't afford to develop it. There's no development. And so I think what President Trump is suggesting is a very common sense. He's the third U.S. president to make this proposal. It's a common sense solution to a thorny problem of what do you do with a giant territory that is not defendable and not developable by this small country, Denmark, and it's part of North America.
You know, one of my favorite war documentaries is this documentary called Armadillo. It's a documentary in which Danish soldiers, at the behest of NATO, as a result of the war we declared in Afghanistan after 9/11, these soldiers went to Afghanistan and participated in our war, put their own sons on the front line to die fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan. Now, what is their gift? What is their, what's their thank you from the United States for being the first nation to activate Article 5 of NATO? What's their thank you? F you. We're taking your land from you, not for any genuine reason. You are our ally, but we feel like that land should, it's better off being ours. And we might even just take it from you. I mean, listen to the language that woman used. They all want to be Trump so bad. Little Denmark? What are you, Trump? Little Marco, Little Ted, Lion Ted? They all want to be him so bad. And watch how she had to correct herself. She goes from saying Denmark to Little Denmark. It's like he's corrupting. You're a grown-ass woman, okay? You are a grown-ass woman. Conduct yourself as such. There's no excuse for why a fucking fat lard, a fucking tub of shit, a bully, can convince you to change your entire way of speaking just so you can sound like him. These are oftentimes people who are college educated people who got it out the mud, didn't have mommy and daddy's money to shape their life for them, to mold their life for them, and then they go on to emulate and imitate a dude with a silver spoon in his mouth. It doesn't make any sense to me. It makes zero sense to me. It is absolutely fucking retarded. It is dumb, okay? Now, it's funny to me that she sits there and says Denmark can't defend itself. You do know that Denmark is a part of NATO, and there are many NATO member states that aren't the US. Are we the most powerful member of NATO? Of course. But are we the only member of NATO? No. And if you think NATO wouldn't give the US a significant challenge in a war, you're delusional, okay? This isn't Iraq. This isn't Afghanistan. This would be a war between very competent military forces in which a lot of Americans will die. This idea that little Denmark can't defend itself is honestly a very fitting idea for MAGA. It's so fitting that someone who worked for Trump is stupid enough to forget that Denmark is a part of NATO and all of them are obligated to come to the defense of Denmark in the event that they are attacked. I'm sure that would even apply to being attacked by another NATO member state. It's like the stupidity is like it just spreads. You got to keep a good distance from it because if you get too close, you're next. Like, it is unbelievable the language this woman uses, but this is how unhinged and deranged they are. Little Denmark. in response to little Denmark sending its troops to die in a war that had nothing to do with them, that America could easily handle on its own, the response after all of that is we're taking your land from you. Not for any genuine, legitimate reason, but because your land is, you can't defend it, so we're gonna take it. It's almost like we're heading down the path of Russia. It's almost like Trump wants to be Putin. What kind of language is this? Is this, 16th century Earth, where we're some European power who sees some land inhabited by natives not strong enough to fight back against European power, and now we're just going to take their land from them because they're not powerful enough to defend it? And it's ironic because the people living in Greenland are white. So we're telling these people who have bothered nobody, ain't bothering nobody, ain't disturbing nobody, because you can't keep this land and because you haven't developed it. I don't know what Trump expects Greenland to be developed into. Alaska ain't all that developed. What are you going to do with land in that region of the world? By the way, speaking of developed, we have actual territories right now that could use a lot of attention and development. We have Puerto Rico, we have the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have territories in the United States right now that could use some federal attention. Not grabbing paper towel and shooting it like a basketball like a fucking jackass. No. I mean actual governance, right? Actual statesmanship. Actually giving a fuck about being in charge of people's lives. That's what I mean. I know that's like wild for MAGA. I know that's out there. I know that's a big ask, a big request, but I'm just saying, okay? We have territories right now made up of fertile land and a great strong population and great opportunities for development. And yet we refuse to properly engage with them. In times of disaster, we come up with reasons not to give them money. They're too corrupt. We don't come up with solutions to actually get around that corruption and properly administer the aid. We talk about how, well, they're not culturally like us. We shouldn't spend money on them. No matter how many sacrifices these people in our actual territories make, we make excuses to not help them in their time of need because they're not white enough or they don't speak English. But you, for some reason, have your eyes set on Greenland. Worry about the territories we actually have right now, managing and governing over them with proper honor, integrity, and care. And then when you've managed to accomplish that, you will have acquired the common sense and intelligence necessary to understand that you don't have any business demanding Greenland from the Danes. But we already know that's too big of an ask from MAGA. So it is what it is. But that's what we're dealing with. Okay, it's bad enough there's a war going on in the Middle East. You got all these different factions beefing with Israel. You got Russia and Ukraine. You got all this going on. And your new president is now promising possibly 3 new wars here in the Western Hemisphere. Mexico, Canada, and Panama. Oh, actually, here's the 4th, Denmark. We're going to be beefing, possibly even going to war with a European nation state over Denmark. And the reason being is because it's indefensible and it's undeveloped. Because MAGA's very well known for developing things. Yeah. The only thing true to character for them is attacking those who can't defend themselves. Very, very on brand, but developing that which is in need of development, that's not MAGA. That's not really, civilization's not really your thing, So that's the insanity we're dealing with right now. Okay, that's the absolute foolishness we're dealing with right now. So Danes, I apologize sincerely for the stupidity and ignorance of my country. They're now asking about destroying the Department of Education, actually demanding it now. So expect more and more idiotic Americans to be in control of the most powerful military in the world, et cetera, et cetera. You already know what it is. It's unfortunate. I apologize, but this is where we are.